Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, is Seattle's plan to combat prostitution working or just breaking up a whole bunch of marriages? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I would say this all the time during the Biden administration. I would quote James Carville, Democratic strategist, and I would say it's the economy, stupid. At the end of the day, whatever's going on in international affairs, whatever's going on domestically, whatever's happening with the White House, if people have money in their pockets, they are happy. The problem is right now, there's a lot of great indicators for the economy. The economy is heading in a great direction, but a lot of people don't feel like the economy is heading in a great direction. Even CNN cannot deny how good the economy is getting and inflation going down.
I mean, I was surprised. It was a better number than anyone was expecting. Look, inflation's been very high. Mm-hmm. It's stayed high. It has not been coming down. But, you know, people were expecting it to be above 3%. It was well below 3%. I mean, I think the president will take this as good news. The investors will think that interest rates will get cut more. So, you know, it was a positive news. There's no other way to spin it.
Absolutely.
Why would you want to spin that? The fact that he said there's no other way to say, why would you? The guy sounds almost reluctant to say, oh, things are getting better for the economy. Look, Democrat president, Republican president, if I got more money in my pocket, if I got more money to spend on my kids and spend on my family, if my kids got money to afford a house, that's good news. It shouldn't be political. What are these numbers? Well, since CNN's the one reporting it, let's see what they actually are.
Brand new numbers on inflation. You can see the annual rate of inflation down a little bit in November. It was at 3% the last time we got a reading. Now it is ticked down, cooling slightly to 2.7%. Let's get right to CNN's Matt Egan for the latest on these numbers. This is below expectations, Matt.
That's right, John. Finally, some good news on the number one economic issue, the cost of living. So the government just put out this new report saying that consumer prices were up by 2.7% year over year in November. That is much better than the forecast from economists, which was for 3%. And as you mentioned, this is a step in the right direction relative to September, which was at 3%. Now, I can't tell you what it was in October because the government shutdown messed with the collection of data during that month. But clearly, this is another step in the right direction.
So is it just CNN or is everybody reporting it this way? Let's see what CNBC is saying.
The number of the morning, the CPI, maybe coming in a little bit better than expected. 2.7%, a little light here. I'm just reading the headlines here. Year over year, 2.7. Ex-food and energy core, 2.6. So 0.4 off. That is a very good number here. And it really, I have not looked at the internals. I'll look at them now, but it suggests that the internals are good as well. Let's see, year over year over the last 12 months. There is no month to month, but some guys will be able to calculate. Seasonally adjusted index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% over the 2 months. So correct my math here, Michael Santoli, but 0.2 divided by 2 is 0.1.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a very, very low monthly rate here. The index for shelter increase, so you did get a really nice decline in shelter, which was 0.2. And so that was 0.1 per month.
Okay, so if the economy is good, why isn't the economy good? Why aren't people actually feeling like the economy is good? This is the problem President Trump and Republicans have to deal with in the short term so they can keep their majority. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the midterm elections are going to roll around and they are going to get clobbered in the midterm elections. And then what happens? Instead of the House doing Doge rescissions or anything else, you know what it's going to be? Investigation, 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 investigation. That's what it's going to be. And the Trump agenda will be stalled in its tracks. And then, if the Trump agenda is stalled in its tracks heading into 2028, They're going to say, why should we trust a Republican being president? Because the last Republican who was president didn't get done all the things he said were going to get done. Now, what's happening now is perception and reality. You remember how the Biden administration used to come out all the time and we would always clobber them over this? And they would say, you're saving 11 cents on this and 12 cents on this. Now, the difference between them and the Trump administration, with the Biden administration, it was never, ever true. They got fact-checked constantly, and if we had a real media, they would have called them out for it. Unfortunately, no. Well, let's do the same thing to the Trump administration. Here's the problem you have. The problem is things are coming down in pricing, but how often are you buying a house? How many people have the money to buy a house? So if interest rates come down, that's great, but how many people are actually buying a house right now? It's not like a house is something you go and buy at the grocery store all the time. You're seeing the prices at the grocery store. And while the price of eggs has come down and while the price of gasoline has come down, many other things have not come down.
Not here, though.
We're not there yet. We're getting to
gas
that.
prices are coming down, except for where you live.
Not here in Washington, but nationally, you've got the average price of gas coming down. In fact, at 4 o'clock today, we have the latest numbers from the Climate Commitment Act of another $1 billion they brought in off your backs. Now, if we're going to call that out, you have to call out the tariffs as well. There may be all this tariff money out there, and it may be paying down the trade deficit, it may be paying down other deficits, but the problem is it's not in your pocket and you're spending money for some goods. Personally, if I was advising President Trump, I would have said, get the economy fixed, and then you threaten the tariffs, you see how many deals you can make in the meantime, and then once the inflation rate comes down, then you hit him with the tariffs. That would have been my personal thing, but I'm not running the show over there. But the problem is going on right now is also a few other things. Is that people are saying, well, the things I buy regularly are not affordable, like you're in Washington. A lot of blue states, your taxes are still jacking up the prices, like the Climate Commitment Act on gasoline. So even though it's $2 plus in other states, here in Washington, you're still at over $4 in some places. So it doesn't feel like things are getting more affordable. And when inflation is high, let's say it's at 40-year high averages, the highest it's been in 40 years since the Carter administration, then the problem is it's still high. It's just come down 10%, or it's come down 12%, or it's come down 50%, but it's still more expensive than it was. And unfortunately, the average person says, I want it right now. This is the iPhone generation. Me, my, now. And unfortunately, too many people went to public school and don't understand economics at all, but they're really good at gender theory. So try explaining this to them. And that's exactly what the president did last night. Now, before he had his address, it was, what's he going to be talking about? Are we invading Venezuela? You had people like Tucker Carlson saying, that's what he's going to do. He's going to announce another war. Yeah, no. But actually, he didn't do anything to correct any of that, so everybody was tuning in. And because everybody was tuning in, President Trump probably had more of an impact because everybody's talking about what he was talking about. Look, it's not like the 1960s and 70s where there's just a few networks, and when the president goes live, it's like a worldwide event. It's still an event, but there's so many other places you can watch TV from. It did interrupt the Survivor finale, which I find very, very entertaining, and people are very, very mad about that. But people are going to tune in and people are going to talk about it. And he had the nation's attention, undivided attention, for half an hour last night. Now, this is something very common that presidents do, but usually it's a press conference or something else. He said, we're going to do it. We're going to do a live address. And you've got Tucker Carlson going, he's going to announce there's a war. We're going to war in Venezuela and your kid is going in there and going to die. And yeah, nobody was right about that. I knew this is what he was going to do, so I didn't get worked up about it. How did I know that? Did I talk to anybody in the White House? No. I just knew he has to change the perception of the economy, and he needs a national microphone to do it. And this is what he's going to try and do.
Yeah, talk about the art of the deal. He bamboozled networks into giving him a half hour of time on the back of a vague threat towards Venezuela. Turns out, no, I'm just going to talk about the economy and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, the people who like Survivor were not happy about this at all. Not happy, right? I see Mike's nodding his head. Not happy at all. So we saw this coming, and what did the president actually say?
Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure. Inflation is stopped. Wages are up. Prices are down. Our nation is strong. America is respected, and our country is back, stronger than ever before. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen.
And that's the problem right there. Poised for an economic boom. Now, things are trending in the right direction, but the average person isn't feeling it. Let's take Mike for a second, okay? And I'm going to do this without even talking to you beforehand. Oh, no, sir. I got this. Mike has the things he likes to buy. Mike likes his action figures. Mike likes his robots. Mike likes all that stuff.
I also like groceries and gas.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We're saying the things you like to buy, your hobbies for a second, okay? So those things went up in price because they were more expensive, because of inflation, because of the tariffs, because of everything else. And Mr. Toymaker is not going to say, well, I'm bringing down my prices. Instead, Mr. Toymaker is going to say, well, they paid it, so I'm going to keep the prices high. You think grocery stores are any different? Grocery stores know that if you are going to pay it and they operate on 1% profit margins, which is a really low profit margin, they can say, okay, they did it. They didn't like it, but they did it. Maybe we can eke out an extra 0.5% or a 0.6% or a 0.7%. Or our costs are still insane because we're in a blue state and we can't bring them down. Or here's something else. We brought all this manufacturing back to the U.S., but it takes time to get these plants operational. Until the plants are actually operational, the costs are not going to come down. So when you say poised for an economic boom, that's correct. But the problem is if the Democrats come in the midterms, a lot of that is going to be stopped right in its tracks. Is the border secure? Yes. Have a lot of wars been ended? Yes. Are we rounding up illegal alien criminals? Yes. So why does it still feel so hard right now? And this is a massive, massive problem for the Trump administration because they are saying the same things the Biden administration did. Oh, wages are up. So now you have money to pay for the more expensive things. Guys, this is a huge problem for the Trump administration because at the end of the day, not everybody's wages are up. In fact, a lot of people's wages are down. There's a lot of companies that are still making cuts. There's a lot of companies that are still saying, hey, we're not matching your 401k anymore. There's a lot of companies that are still struggling because it takes time for these things to turn around. And the younger generation, which got a degree in underwater dance theory or basket weaving, unfortunately don't have the skills that are needed in the marketplace. And they think they get a corner office right away. That's not how it happens. And they go, why can't I afford a house? On top of that, you've got places like here in Washington, which we'll get into in a little bit, who are saying, well, we're going to put more money into affordable housing. The Democrats have capitalized on this perfectly because what word do they keep using? Affordability, affordability, affordability. The problem is their solution is socialism, and then nothing's affordable for anybody anymore because there's nothing to buy. That's their plan. That's what they're saying without saying, but they have found the word that works, affordability. If people don't feel like things are affordable, you're going to have problems. And I don't see it getting better in the short term.
Exactly. So if the economy is so good, how come the economy ain't good?
Exactly right. Just like we say about Moneyball all the time. So what does President Trump have to say? Patience, donkey, patience, right? The old line. Look, this is what's going to happen. And just like this year, where a whole bunch of the bad stuff that got put in place in Washington State isn't going to affect until after the first of the year, same thing with some of the federal things that President Trump did.
Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time.
Now, how many people actually pay taxes that are going to be watching this that are in that young generation that think they're never going to afford anything? President Trump is right. All of that can happen. But the problem is, does it happen before the midterms? Do people feel it before the midterms? Does the perception turn around before the midterms? Now, to nudge this along a little bit, we know President Trump loves the military. He announced this.
Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations to everybody.
So that's great, but the problem is, so they paid a whole lot more money because of things like the tariffs, and now you're giving them back the money? That's not exactly the thing you think it is. However, I will say this. Giving a bonus to our military members is a good thing. Giving people back money is a good thing. Unfortunately, most of the Democrats don't see it that way. This is some of them over on News Nation.
And he can promote 1776 costs all he wants and giving out a check. That worked for him the first time. 1776, that's less than a rent check in D.C. I don't even know what the impact of that is going to be.
Wow, that is somebody who doesn't know the price of a gallon of milk. That is somebody who doesn't know, because you don't understand what that amount of money means for somebody who's making a military salary. At least there's some sanity on the left. Here's Van Jones talking about it.
One good thing was he's going to give money to soldiers. I think, listen, that's a good thing. So that's the only thing I could find in there that I hadn't heard before. And giving some money to our soldiers is a good thing.
He's right. Van Jones is right. I like that he calls balls and strikes sometimes. So here's the thing. The president has a perception problem. The president also has a timing problem. Right now, we hope all of this is going to happen. We want all of this to happen. Is it going to happen in time for the midterms? Is it going to happen at all is the real question. Because unfortunately, the tariffs are a huge X factor in what they're doing to affordability. Prices, taxes in blue states are a huge effect on what it's going to do with affordability. And unfortunately, you got people like Bob Ferguson and Democrats here in Washington who say, it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump. And if you could judge anything by Washington State, it's a lot of people go, yep, I hate the man so much, I can't give him credit for anything. I'm going to blame him for the taxes the Democrats put in place. You agree with me? You disagree with my assessment. Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, we'll take your phone calls. We'll take your texts about what you think of my assessment of President Trump, but also we'll find out if this anti-prostitution thing is actually working in Seattle, or is it just breaking up marriages? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, my friends, download the KVI app because we have an exclusive ticket giveaway. We are giving away tickets to see Toto with Christopher Cross and the Romantics August 18th at the White River Amphitheater. Enter only on the app. You cannot call us. You cannot text us to enter this competition. You can only do it on the app, which you can download for free in the Apple or Android App Store. Get your tickets for Toto at the White River Amphitheater on August 18th with Christopher Cross and the Romantics. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Jay in Idaho. Jay, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. It's
Thank
the
you.
holiday season, so
Same
we should
to
be
you and
joyful, right?
Exactly. Joy to the world.
Joyful.
Exactly.
Indeed. So my theory is that the perception, which is real, is that we have too many blue states, too many purple states that are regulating and taxing us into to death, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Exhibit A is good old Washington State and turd at the helm of this state.
Mm-hmm.
So people feel bad because they poll and they sample people living in blue or purple states, and everything is still out of control. Taxes are increasing, prices going up, gas doesn't come down, but it certainly is coming down in Kentucky, where my war buddy is living the good life of paying under $2 a gallon, or my friends in Florida, where it's $2.50 a gallon. So things are happening in the country, but not in the blue or the purple states. And perception is real. I think that Trump, and I've heard some tidbits from talking heads from the administration that they're going to do a advertising education blitz after the first of the year, which would be very wise. Because I agree with your monologue, but I do think that there is some room. They have time if they get after it right away to educate and inform the American people, but not in an arrogant way like the Biden administration said, this is an illusion, you're all wrong, it's transitory inflation, blah, 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 blah. So if they are empathetic, sympathetic, and say, we feel your pain, we're working hard on this, and we're doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, we have seen gas prices come down even in the workers' paradise of Washington State, but they need to keep hammering away at that. And if they're going to do some sort of a midterm convention, I think that will get enough people to realize that, yeah, things are not as bad, even though the economy is weird. This is not 1985 all over again because of how employment is changing and AI and high tech.
But
so
I'll say this.
Weird.
You're right, Jay. It is a perception thing, and it's a perception thing that's very, very real. The problem is I already hear the media saying the same thing. Well, you've been in office for a year. How come you haven't fixed it yet? And that's reinforcing the perception. There's only so long people are going to be able to blame Joe Biden for, just like Biden was blaming Trump for, even though it wasn't true. Even though he was the one who was pushing out all the spending, he was blaming Trump for all of that. Good assessment, Jay. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Looks like I touched a lot of people's nerves on this one. Hit a lot of nerves. Ian in Tacoma, what's going on, man?
Man, I agree with your assessment of it's just anything he does is getting nerfed in blue states because of their policies. And working as someone from the instant gratification generation who also works in the nuclear field, I can tell you, much like the nuclear field, the economy, any sudden change is never a good thing.
Yep, and that's what we see happening right now. And the question is that all this stuff going to work out? Look, when you have more manufacturing and you have more people hiring and you have more production being done in the U.S., that's a good thing. But the problem is, I don't see the Republicans cutting spending as much as they want. It's almost like they said, well, we're going to tariff everything and then we can keep spending just on our priorities this time. I know DOGE is doing its thing, but where's Congress doing the rescissions?
Oh, Congress never does anything useful. You know that. It's against their bylaws.
Yeah. Very good. Very, very true. Rob, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? Give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Rob in Oak Harbor. Rob, what's going on?
Yeah, the last two callers were pretty much right on, but like most of the media, except for Dan Ball on One American News Network, who's pretty much on top of it nightly, the existential threat to America is the ideology of the Nation of Islam, and it's been happening and forming for a long time, and people just Trump doesn't talk about it. And I for the life of me, I just can't understand how come it is not. He's not talking about it all the time. If I were king, I would mobilize all the National Guard in every state, and I would start rounding them up and getting them the hell out of here.
Well, I think you have a massive constitutional problem if you do that. Look, I've got my issues with radical Islam. I've been talking about them for over 2.5 years now. But you can't just say, let's get every Muslim out of the country. That's not something you can do according to the Constitution, nor do I think we are at a point where we tried this during internment. How'd that work out for FDR? I mean, that's exactly something that you shouldn't be doing. And if you're talking about the economic issues, a lot of the economic issues are right here at home. You can't blame everything on just one religion. There's plenty of blame to go around.
I'm trying to blame every one of them. I want to tell you something. Back in 2011 and 2012, I was having dental work done up in Vancouver because the dollar was really good. And I went up there on one Tuesday, and I was in the waiting room, and I was reading the Vancouver Sun, and I was on the B section, and their equivalent of our, I guess, our FBI. And this was circulating around in the news at the time too, but it didn't seem like anybody cared. So at that time, it was known throughout Canada, not hypothetical, 500 cell sites comprised of 100 plus members per cell site.
Okay, Rob, I'm not disagreeing that there is a threat from radical Islam, but President Trump was talking about the economy last night, and you got to make your point better about how the two are connected. Rob, I appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Daniel in the Navy. Daniel, what's going on? How do you feel about the Warrior Bucks?
Hey, Ari, I was just calling just on that topic. When I finished my time in the service, I was a petty officer second class. I was leading a division of about 15 sailors underneath me, or subdivision of 15 sailors underneath me, ranking from E1 to E3 with 2 E4s supporting me. And I know if that bonus was $500, that would help some of them so much. 1,700? Oh my gosh! Like some guys I knew, they didn't do so well on the ASAP, so they had to take longer to go up the ranks. When people were just fresh in, they're making so little, and that amount of money, especially for the ones that have families or supporting the families back home, like a sick father, sick mother. That type of money is the world to enlisted people. It's just a huge boon, and there's the complications with it coming from the tariffs and how tariffs are actually kind of an increase in taxes, anyways. But for the enlisted guy, that's the holiday season right there.
Exactly, it is. You're 100% right, and that's why it really bothers me when some people over on certain networks are belittling it because it shows they just don't understand. Daniel, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Seattle is on a victory parade about prostitution, but it hasn't gotten any better. So what exactly are they bragging about? We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I was looking at the Seattle police blotter, and I started laughing. I literally was sitting at my desk at home and just started giggling because they said the word prostitution. No, that's not why. Do you remember a couple weeks ago we told you the story about how Seattle had a brand new plan to deal with prostitution on Aurora Avenue? For those of you who don't live in the Seattle area, Aurora Avenue has been a problem for prostitution probably all of our lifetimes. It's been a problem for years. Aurora Avenue has never been great. And every politician says they're going to address Aurora Avenue. Notice I said address, not fix it. Because some said, let's legalize more prostitution. If you make it legal, we can regulate it. Well, that didn't work. Then others said we're going to crack down on it. That didn't work. And Sean Barnes, Chief Wiggum himself, had a new plan that they were going to send letters to people who are seen with prostitutes or on Aurora Avenue, and that's going to fix the problem. At the time, we made a lot of fun of this plan, and all of a sudden we said, well, this is going to kill a whole bunch of businesses on Aurora Avenue because you ain't going to that Jack in Box no more if it's up near the prostitutes. You ain't going to any business that's up in that area because you don't want to get one of those letters home, right? Even if you're not frequenting the prostitutes. So I saw this post and I just giggled. The Seattle Police Department is proud to highlight the great work of our officers who are working along the Aurora Avenue North Corridor to deter people from sexual exploitation. Since October, SPD has had officers photographing the license plates of vehicles seen engaging with suspected prostitutes and their interactions. After capturing these images, detectives in the SPD Human Trafficking Unit have issued vehicle owners a warning in the mail. These mailings, part of a prostitution prevention and awareness campaign, notify vehicle owners of the suspected crimes committed, as well as show photos of their vehicle. The letters are simply a warning to put the vehicle owner on notice. SPD mailed 21 warning letters in October, 20 more in November. Okay, so you mailed letters. How come there's nothing in here about crime going down? How come there's nothing in here about less people frequenting the prostitutes? If you mailed 20 letters in October and then 20 more in November, the problem has not been solved at all. It's exactly the same. Now, the last time I drove Aurora Avenue, and this is many moons ago because I don't really have the reason to go up there anymore, there were prostitutes as far as the eye could see. I assume they haven't left. I assume nothing has changed. So what have you actually accomplished? Absolutely nothing. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, there's this, keeping with the theme here, there's a strip club that has been declared a chronic nuisance. Okay. Guess where it is? Just guess where it is, guys. It's on Aurora Avenue. So you're telling me things are getting better because you're mailing letters? Congratulations to the officers who know how to address a letter. I think the computer is probably doing a lot of that for you, and put a stamp on it and then send it home with people. So the Seattle Police Department Chief Sean Barnes this week declared a strip club on Aurora Avenue North a chronic nuisance property following a lengthy investigation over the past several months that documented illegal activities and recovered 2 firearms, including 1 stolen gun. On December 8th, the city sent a chronic nuisance declaration letter to the business owner at 10338 Aurora Avenue North, where the Club Dollhouse Strip Club has been operating. The declaration requires the owner to respond within 7 days and come to an agreement with the city to address the safety hazards. Well, if I was the owner of this strip club, and I'm not defending the owner of the strip club, you know what I would say to the city? You guys haven't addressed your problem. You're mailing them letters. And how much does this overlap with my problem? So until you guys address your problem, I ain't addressing my problem. And if you shut me down, you know what's going to happen? The homeless are going to move in. Now you got a whole new problem and some fires most likely to deal with and more drug dealing. Let's have this fight. That was, I remember years ago when I was doing some property management. I had this one property where the homeless were always parking around it. So we put up no parking signs. The city cited me for putting up the no parking signs. You know how I responded to the citation? I said, as soon as you address the RV and illegal camper situation, then I'll take down my no parking signs. They didn't bother getting back to me. Yeah, nothing's getting better here. How do you think it's going to be under Katie Wilson? Katie Wilson will probably say something like, yeah, I was friends with a prostitute once. I know a girl who's now a prostitute. Oh, you want me to fix it? World Cup is coming. Woo! World Cup! Yay! World Cup. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Guard in Eastern Oregon. Guard, what's going on, man?
Hey, Ari. Big fan of the show.
Thank you.
Hey, my question was, Israel lives in peace with a lot of Muslims that live, within the country of Israel. They got Druze Muslims, they got Palestinians. How does Israel live in peace?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really great question. So my son's living there now. I got my other son there on a gap year. When you're walking down the streets of Israel, and I encourage everybody to go there as a bucket list item if you've never been before, especially if you're a religious person, you'll love the tour and stuff of the place, right? But it's because in Israel, you want to have all the rights of an Israeli citizen, and there's something in the air. There's something there where people just go, I want to make this country great. I'm not using that because of Donald Trump, but it's a matter of they're not Palestinians if they live in Israel. They're Israeli Arabs. And the Israeli Arabs say, I want to serve in the army, or I want to have my business be successful, and I want to do this. Do you know there's a survey that comes out all the time where it says that Palestinians would rather be Israeli citizens than citizens of a Palestinian state because they know how a Palestinian state is going to be run. So let's look at your options in the area. You've got Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, and Gaza. And then you've got Israel, which is a full-on democracy. You've got Israel where you can make money in the economy. You know my favorite story that kind of sums this up? My favorite one is SodaStream. Yeah. Guard, do you know what SodaStream is?
Oh, I got one.
Okay, perfect. There was a commercial for it during the Super Bowl, which had Scarlett Johansson was the spokesperson. So now that's during the Super Bowl, and Scarlett Johansson is repping this thing. It got a lot of attention. And the anti-Israel activists said, oh, my God, it's in one of the territories. We have to shut this thing down. Well, the thing about that specific plant was that there were a lot of Palestinians working there because they wanted to earn Israeli money. And because they want to earn Israeli money, they're working for this Israeli company. SodaStream is an Israeli company. I think it got bought years ago, but at the time it was an Israeli company because they want to make a real living, a good living, a free market living. And then what happened was because of the pressure, they closed that plant, moved it inside of Israel, and didn't have the Palestinian workers anymore. It's an economic thing also. Does that make sense to you, Guard?
Yeah. So how do we translate that into America and integrating, Somalis, Yemenis?
Great question. Syrians. Great question. Look at what President Trump's doing with the peace deals. Here's his peace through strength / peace through money. Yeah. Do you want to make money off America or do you want to get bombed? That's basically the peace through strength mantra, right? Now, the problem is we're bringing too many people into this country who don't want to be in this country. You're bringing in too many people who just want the welfare. And it's like the homeless problem here in Seattle. If you keep bringing in people who don't want to be part of making their lives better, who want something better, like our relatives who came here during when everybody was leaving Europe or whatever else it was, who said, I want a piece of the American dream. If they just come here and say, I want to live off the welfare, that's a mindset, and we shouldn't be taking those people in anyway. And here you've got something else. October 7th, there were a lot of people who were the terrorists who had the work papers to work in Israel. What they wanted was to kill Jews, and unfortunately, a lot of the jobs they took was just so they could get the lay of the land and then go in and kill the people who are paying them an Israeli salary. So the problem is, if you bring in people who actually want to be here for all the right reasons, you're going to be okay. If you bring in people who want to be here for the wrong reasons, you're not. And that's what we see happen. Guard, appreciate the intellectual exercise. Appreciate the questions. Appreciate you listening to the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 5757. When we come back, my friends, it looks like the House of Representatives has banned trans surgery on minors. Will the Senate actually take this up? Will it move forward? We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Last night, the House of Representatives voted mostly along party lines to ban transgender surgeries for minors, including puberty blockers and other such things for minors. This is a no-brainer, by the way. Let me explain why. Can you get a piercing before you're 18 without your parents' permission? Can you do that? Absolutely not. No. Okay, you can't even go and get certain types of waxing done without your parents' permission, but you can get your body changed by certain people here in Washington before you're 18, thanks to the ridiculous laws we put in place here. Look, when you get older, you can do what you want to yourself. But something else is that I can't believe a lot of these doctors are doing it. I can't believe they're doing it. The science does not add up. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't stop suicide. It actually, in fact, increases it. How is cutting off perfectly healthy parts of a person's anatomy supposed to make them healthier? It's not gender-affirming care. It's gender mutilation care, full stop. I wouldn't even call it care. I'd say they don't care about you. That's what it is. So Dr. Oz was actually talking about this earlier today.
We are in a weird place in America where we have mixed politics and medicine. And you know what you get when you mix politics and medicine? Politics. There is no medicine left. We witnessed that with bizarre statements, predatory actions, and many other activities that I think have forced children to the tip of the spear where they have brunt the burden of this toxic combination. We've been told that permanently altering bodies of children, and the children are told this as well, will bring them lasting peace. But few have achieved the inner peace promised by these charlatans. And the talking heads, the media personalities, the social media posts, all these have created a dishonest narrative. And, of course, many of these children are left with the most tragic parts of all the treatments that they've succumbed themselves to.
You know what's worse is that this is a marketing profit thing, and the left doesn't want to see it. So if the hospitals want to make money, they can make money doing these surgeries. There's a lot of money for these surgeries. And then you make a lot of money off the kid you do it to because for the rest of their lives, they need these surgeries. And the insurance company makes a lot of money off them. It's money from the government forever. Unfortunately, a whole bunch of people fell for a marketing scam. That's what this was. It was we want you to buy our product. It may mess you over for life, but we want you to buy our product so we can make more money. What happened to the Hippocratic Oath? I know a lot of doctors who won't do this insanity. They just will not do it, and they work here. So, what is the Department of Health moving forward with?
American taxpayers should not have to foot the bill for ideologically driven experiments on our nation's youth, and hospitals that we deem must meet the minimum quality standards of care and safety should not be conducting these experiments when we know so little about what is happening with our youth. Now the important part. For these reasons, and I can go on and on, this document, the white paper that Secretary commissions over 300 pages long, we're taking major steps at CMS to stop a funding process that has led to irreversible medical interventions with two major actions. The first, we're announcing a notice of proposed rulemaking that ends taxpayer funding of sex-rejecting procedures for children in Medicaid and CHIP, full stop. We don't provide health care to every child, but at 53%, we've got most, and we're not going to let taxpayer money go to hurt these children, and those children will no longer be hurt with this ideology.
It's about time. It's about flipping time. It used to be you would treat mental illness. Now it's let's affirm it. Let's make everybody feel good about this stuff. It doesn't matter if it messes them over for life. If somebody's got a cutting problem, do you let them continue to cut themselves, or do you go, that's a mental illness we need to address? Remember Bill Maher. You want to be a pirate? Do we just let you cut off your leg and give you a hook on your hand? No, we don't do things like that. So why for this? For your anatomy, one of the most sensitive parts of your anatomy, are we going to say this is okay? A lot of people fell for a marketing scam. It's insane. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Joe and Roy. Joe, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Yeah, it sounded like you were just kind of hitting on it a little bit there. Your comment a little bit ago about once you're an adult, you can do what you want with your body, and I think that I think that's a wrong idea, and I think it's a wrong message from a lot of the conservatives that have that point of view. I hear Lars say it all the time too. It's a mental illness that these people have. So just because they're an adult, I don't think that we should be affirming them or letting them commit this stuff to their bodies.
Well, that's a fair point.
Issue.
By the way, Roy, your point is well taken. I'm sorry I got to cut you off, but I got a hard break coming up. Your point is very, very well taken, which is, yeah, just because you're doing it when you're older doesn't make a lot of sense. But right now, to do it to the minors at all, look, when you're older, you can get a tattoo and you can gain a whole bunch of weight so that Tweety bird becomes a big bird. You can do that, right? May not be that you can get a gauge on your ears and mess it up. You're right. When we don't deal with mental health, you get the streets of Seattle. When you don't deal with mental health, you get other problems. You are exactly correct, Joe. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. When we come back, my friends, Bob Ferguson has a way to make life more affordable by taxing you. I kid you not. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, new developments in the Brown University shooting and possible connections to the shooting at MIT. But before we get to any of that, I don't know about you guys. I've had enough of the rain. So tonight, I am flying out of here, and I'm going down to Phoenix, where it is sunny and 70 degrees for Turning Point USA's America Fest. That's right. I'm going to be down there broadcasting from the convention floor of Charlie Kirk's organization. This is their big annual conference that people were worried, is it going to happen or not after Charlie Kirk's assassination? I've gone the last 4 years, always had a great time. We've got a whole bunch of special guests lined up. And tomorrow during the morning ride from 6 to 9 a.m., young Zach will be checking in with Phil and giving updates from the convention. I'll be on air from 3 to 6 p.m. where you can hear everybody I'm interviewing, all my details from the floor. We're going to be talking to a lot of people. And also what I'm very curious about, what direction is Turning Point going? And here's what I'm curious about. There's been a void because the people at Turning Point have been in mourning, rightfully so. Erica Kirk lost her husband, and now she has to run this entire organization while raising 2 kids. You've got the people at Turning Point organization who lost their best friend, who lost their employer. So other people have been doing the talking. Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. Well, it's fascinating, the speaker lineup. Tonight, when this thing starts, you've got Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro on the main stage. That's going to be fascinating to watch. We're going to see the direction Turning Point is going, but also you've got like the Steve Bannon types running around who are kind of trying to get the clicks and stuff off of this. I'm fascinated to see if there's going to be the young Zach thinks there's going to be the kids who are like, we're not going to stop for anything. We're going to take Charlie's vision and we're going to make sure there's a club in every school. Or is it going to be the adults ruin all the fun?
Well, and I wonder, with having those two Titanic icons, iconic titans of the conservative space, Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson, in the same place at the same time, like, what is that actually like? Is there going to be like a brawl backstage? Like where's the green room cam? All I could hear is just like the Star Trek Amok Time fight music. Like, I'm like, how could these guys be in the same room together, let alone following each other on stage?
I have a theory. Let's just do this for a second. I have a theory. I think that Tucker Carlson is the internet, and I think that Ben Shapiro is the real life. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see if I'm wrong, because there is crossover. There are people on the internet who agree with Ben Shapiro, obviously, and there are people in real life who agree with Tucker Carlson. I'm kind of curious to see what happens when each of them take the stage. Look, I think people are going to boo Tucker Carlson. I think people are going to boo Ben Shapiro. I think it's become that embattled at this point. If you haven't seen it yet, watch Ben Shapiro's 20-minute takedown of Tucker Carlson yesterday. It's really, really impressive. In fact, I'll share it on social media when I'm at the airport tonight. But I'm kind of curious to see which direction Turning Point is going to go. Actually, coming up during our good news segment today, I've got an audio clip I want to play of Erica Kirk discussing that anti-Semitism has no home at Turning Point whatsoever, and about the Sabbath meal and how I'm going to this thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. Plus, I'm looking forward to getting out of the rain because the weather's so bad. Something that is nauseating to me is Turd Ferguson. Bob Ferguson, I knew he was going to use this disaster. I didn't think he'd do it so soon. I knew he was going to use this disaster for political gain. I called it at the time. I thought he might wait till, I don't know, the floodwaters receded. But Turd Ferguson is making a calculation. He says, people are going to Turning Point USA. People are going out of town. And while the floodwaters are still up, I want to convince everybody that I've got the solution. So you know what he did today? He came out and announced an affordable housing initiative. That's right. That's his big plan. Oh, how are we going to fix all of this, all the flooding? Affordable housing. That's how we're going to do it. That's what it is. So let me just make sure I got this right before I get into the nonsense of his idea. So your big plan is when we have a massive budget deficit, which has just gotten worse because of all the flooding, your big plan is to buy houses for everybody. Yeah, that's basically what it is. So he wants to create a new agency to deal with housing affordability. Okay, so hang on. Let me just make sure I got this right. Your plan to make things more affordable is to have an agency that is paid for by taxpayer dollars to make things more affordable that you're going to tax us more money for. That's your big plan. That's it in a nutshell. That's basically it. Ferguson's proposing $55 million for rehabilitation and housing preservation. What are we going to do? Find Denny's house, find Mercer's house, and preserve them? I thought they were brothels. Or did I get the wrong settler? I know there were a lot of brothels back. Now they're just all up on Aurora Avenue. I forget which one owned the bar, which one had the brothel. I forget which one's which.
Completely unrelated. I remember once upon a time I went on like a Seattle mystery tour with a former Seattle police detective who writes crime novels in his spare time. And he would take us on a tour of like the Pioneer Square area. And he'd be like, yeah, you see that building over there? That used to be a house of prostitution in the 1800s. That one over there, that was a house of prostitution in the 1900s. Ooh, you might remember the vault from my novels. That's where it is. That over there, also a house of prostitution. Also, I saw a house of prostitution open up for Godsmack and Creed one time.
So, it's funny you mentioned that. Anybody who's taken the underground tour, as we call it, the poop tour here in Seattle, it's funny. If you go with all adults, they get a little bit more graphic. If you're with kids, they call them seamstresses. They call them seamstresses when you're on the tour. So all the adults, they go, there were a lot of seamstresses here in Seattle. In fact, over there was where the seamstresses had their workshop. Mike, it was probably a very similar tour to that one. Okay, so I don't think we're preserving the seamstress brothels. $50 million to the Housing Trust Fund Preservation Program to cover rehabilitation and repairs for affordable homes. Wait a minute. Does this mean you're repairing the affordable housing that got damaged in the flood because there's insurance for things like that, or using our money for it? How much affordable housing did get damaged in the flood? Ferguson expanded the terms of this program to include repairs for flood-damaged homes. Well, then, wait a second. There's insurance for that. There's FEMA money for that. What are you spending our money on? I know FEMA only covers up to 80% or something like that, so there's a 20% gap, but I need a little bit more clarification because this is written in a really crazy way. $5 million in grant funding to expand the Low-Income Home Rehabilitation Grant Program, which serves rural homeowners impacted by recent flooding. Oh, isn't that nice? $5 million for the people actually impacted by the flooding. Okay. What else are we spending the money here for? $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund Preservation Program to maintain and protect Washington State's existing affordable housing portfolio. Whoa! So you're putting $5 million to the people who lost their houses, but $50 million into affordable housing? Wait. Ready for this? $20 million to acquire and preserve mobile and manufactured home communities, preventing 426 households from displacement. Okay. You say you need trailer parks and FEMA tents, but then what do you need FEMA for? I'm confused because FEMA brings in all this stuff. Look, I agree that a state should be prepared for these things. $81 million to develop approximately 1,933 new affordable rental units. Oh, so the bulk of the money is going towards more affordable housing, using the giant air quotes like Chris Farley when he was on Saturday Night Live. $73 million for the home ownership program to create 664 units for the first-time home buyers. Whoa! So you want to fund the program that has been plagued with corruption. Do you remember all these little programs they have where based on the color of your skin, they'll give you a home? You want to fund that for $73 million. So by my math, let's do some quick math here. You're spending 81 plus 73, $154 million. Plus, let's scroll this up a little bit here, plus another 50. So that's $204 million on something that has nothing whatsoever to do with the flood, and $25 million on the flood itself. That's your big plan. See, Bob, I can see through your nonsense. $25 million in theory for the victims of the flood, and I'm giving the benefit of the doubt on 20 of that. But $204 million on affordable housing? Do you know what happens? The more of this affordable housing you build, first of all, most of it isn't being used. Second of all, it's being abused by drug addicts. Third of all, who's going to pay for that? Last I checked, we have a massive budget deficit. Oh, you know what's going on here, Mike? He's saving his political butt. You know why? He promised he would get a certain number of units built, and he can't get them built because developers have said, we're not building in Washington. You did rent control. And when you do rent control, we can't make a profit here. So Bob Ferguson is using a natural disaster to save him from political promises he couldn't keep because of laws he signed, because of bills he signed into law. And you know the problem is? A lot of people are going to believe this. You know what the bigger problem is, Mike? I am sure tonight after the show, when I go check the news, all they're going to do is write about Bob Ferguson giving all this money to whatever because they're just going to print the press release. Took me about 10 minutes to dissect that. About 10 minutes to dissect that whole thing. He is completely full of it. And if we actually have this $1 billion budget gap, he now wants to add another $204, well, actually, when you factor all this in, $230 million we don't have. Where do you think they're going to get the money for this? There's only two ways, cuts or taxes. Bob Ferguson doesn't believe in cuts. So how do you think they're actually going to fix this? No, this is not something that's actually going to help the flood victims. Instead, what this is, he's using the flood as an excuse to push his own personal agenda. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Richard and Lacey. Richard, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, just calling. I was going to talk about Turning Point USA.
Sure.
And I'm a firm believer in their philosophy, and I love Charlie Kirk to death. I'm thinking to myself right now that their new campus spokesperson should be Officer Tatum or Brandon Tatum, because he is already out there in debating for Turning Point USA. He is a great spokesperson for the organization. He's on campuses already. His philosophy follows what Charlie Kirk believed in, and I think he would just be a great choice.
You want to laugh at something, Richard? You want to laugh a little bit? I'm having dinner with him on Friday night. So actually, on Friday night at Turning Point, they're having a big Sabbath dinner, and the featured guest is going to be Brandon Tatum. And I'm very, very excited to meet him and talk to him. I've never had the opportunity before. I think I have an interview with him, but I'll tell you something else. Turning Point, before the convention, they release a thing of all the people that you can interview when you go down to Turning Point. I saw our friend Jonathan Cho on the list. So Jonathan Cho's there because he works for Frontlines, but Brandon Tatum is on there. And I'm really hoping to get him on the show so we can actually have the exact conversation, exactly what you said. And Richard, with your permission, I will mention your name to him and say, one of my callers called and said he really wants you for this role. Is that okay with you, Richard?
That's definitely okay with me. I support him, and I think he would do a great job taking over on campuses for Charlie Kirk.
I think you're 100% right. You know who else is going to be down there? Cam Higbee. Cam Higbee's been doing a lot of that stuff on campuses, so we're going to talk to him as well. Richard, I will pass on your kind wishes and kind words. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Lisa in Everett. Lisa, what's up?
Hi. I was just listening to you talk about the Bob Ferguson proposal for the natural disaster of all the flooding, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with all the people affected by the closure of Highway 2.
Yep.
People who work on the west side of Stevens Pass, who work in Leavenworth, and all of the how it's going to affect the economy of Leavenworth and Wenatchee.
Yep.
Even into the spring.
Yep.
You know, when all the fields and the workers, it's like, those people didn't have their property damaged, but because of how we weren't maintaining the roads and, you know, paying attention to the roads because of the stupid climate care junk.
Yep.
What's going to happen to those people? I haven't heard anything with supporting that economy.
You know,
that's
Lisa,
gonna be destroyed.
the only person I've heard speak about it is me. I know that people are talking about the problems, but nobody's talking about the solutions. A lot of people in the news are saying, hey, they're going to have problems, But nobody's talking about, well, there were infrastructure issues for years that nobody addressed, thanks Jay Inslee, that nobody took care of, thanks Bob Ferguson, that nobody had anything to fix. Or they had plenty to fix, they just didn't actually do it. So I'll tell you what, Lisa, you tell me what you think of my idea. I think I think that Leavenworth should do Christmas in July. I think they should really have an event, Christmas in July, come help us after we lost the holiday season. But the question is, it's a government project. You think Highway 2 is going to be fixed by then?
Don't think so.
Yeah. And then the question is, who's responsible for this? And then, watch, Lisa, what he announced today is just the first thing. You know what's going to come next? Infrastructure. We need taxes to fix the roads. Whoa, 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 whoa. You guys just signed an added gas tax last year to fix the roads. How come you didn't fix the roads? If you guys used our money to fix the roads, how come they aren't fixed? Or better yet, like we had with Todd Myers, the interview we did 2 days ago, where he said we had all this money from the Climate Commitment Act that was supposed to address climate change, floods that were caused by climate change, and they claim these floods were caused by climate change. How come they weren't addressed?
Right.
Yeah. Put all that together, right?
Yeah.
We've got Cliff Mass coming up on the show later today. And when Cliff Mass comes on the show, we're actually going to talk to him about reservoirs and infrastructure, because now that all this water's here, what are we doing with it? And newsflash, I'll just give you an advanced peek here, Lisa. We're not saving it.
Yeah, we should be.
Exactly right. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from John in Auburn. Ari, Democrats never let a crisis go to waste. If they can enrich themselves, they always will. This one here from Bob in Portland. Turd is spending our money on votes. Exactly right. Jeff in Kent says Dems keep calling this rain a climate disaster. Weren't we supposed to use the CCA money, Climate Commitment Act money, for the rain damage? Yeah, let's do that. Let's just use all the money for that. Oh, unbelievable. Mike, you're going to like this one. Jeff and Kent. The underground tour, you're forgetting the opium dens. Oh, he's right. I was forgetting the opium dens. There were a whole bunch of those down there. Bars, brothels, opium dens. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up?
Breaking news from Sound Transit Board meeting today.
Yeah.
You are to be thanked for this, Ari, because you took this on in 2019 when nobody believed in you except me and maybe a few other people. But Sound Transit today has agreed to study fare gates. But here's the problem.
Yes.
They may only do it at a few stations, saying, oh, they're not going to get a return from doing them all.
Hang on a second here, Joe. So now they have to do a study on the fare gates. Okay, Joe, I saw a bus the other day go by, and it said something on the main flashy thing on front on the main scoreboard. It said something about that it costs money to get on the bus, and I was just laughing about it, like fare required. That's what it said, fare required. And I said, oh, you finally figured out you can't do the buses for free anymore? Joe, if there's one thing you and I agree on transit is that we need transit. Where we disagree is how to pay for transit, but I think we both agree on the fare gates and that people should be paying their way, right?
Yes, absolutely. People should absolutely be paying their expletive-deleted way. And, as I told the Sound Transit Board, it's equity to the transit people like me who depend on transit. If we cheat on transit and get caught enough times, we could get a free figure fine at least, or be banned from transit. And the people that go just for a cultural event, that's not fair to us. So it's not just fairness for those who drive; it's fairness for the disability community. So we need fare gates soon, not later. And the thing is a lot of transit agencies have already figured out how to do fare gates, like BART, like TransLink in British Columbia, like mediocre LA Metro, and yet how long is this going to take to get this going?
Yeah, exactly. But they have to do the study first, even though we know it works in places like New York and Boston, like you mentioned. We know it works, but now Washington, Seattle has to do a study. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the update, Joe. Do appreciate it. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, is there a connection between the Brown University shooter and the MIT shooter? Authorities may have somebody who they have as a suspect. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just want to remind everybody about our KVI app exclusive ticket giveaway. You can win tickets to see Toto with Christopher Cross and the Romantics August 18th at the White River Amphitheater. But the only way for you to enter is by going and downloading our app from the Apple Store or the Android App Store, and then you can enter to win. You cannot call in, you cannot text to enter this competition. Get your tickets for Toto at the White River Amphitheater on August 18th with Christopher Cross and the Romantics only through our app. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Well, things are developing very, very quickly right now in New England. The police, law enforcement in Salem, New Hampshire, have apparently found the suspected shooter's abandoned vehicle near a storage facility. There's pictures of it up on Fox News website right now where you have the authorities looking at this vehicle. I believe it is a vehicle that the suspect rented. I believe that is the vehicle they have found near a storage facility. This is reminding me of the scene in Anchorman 2 when they're like, speculate on the driver, speculate on the driver. Does that mean he went to the storage facility to get his go bag, to get other stuff? Is it just that's where he happened to park the thing because storage facilities are usually in more remote locations? Who knows? But something is ringing in my mind. I wish I could find the clip. I couldn't remember what I did with it. But Mike, you remember just the other day, after the shooting at Brown University, local authorities there were saying there is no threat to the public. Do you remember them saying that over and over again? There's no threat to the public. And we said, what do you mean there's no threat to the public? There's a gunman on the loose. There's literally a gunman on the loose, and you're saying there's no threat to the public? Now, according to Fox News, investigators in New England have identified the suspected Brown University shooter and are looking into whether there's a link to the murder of an award-winning nuclear scientist 50 miles away at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. By the way, I saw something from the Daily Mail that I didn't really buy, where they said it was an Iranian plot to assassinate some guy. Okay, I haven't seen the evidence they said to actually do that. It sounded more like clickbait to me. If you actually have found the evidence, send it on over. We'll take a look at it. The gunman remains at large, and authorities have obtained a warrant according to sources. They confirmed that officers are in Salem, New Hampshire, where the suspected shooter's abandoned car was found near a storage facility. Police scanner audio reveals police were searching for a gray Nissan Sentra with main plates in Salem, New Hampshire, in connection with a homicide in Brookline, Massachusetts, where MIT nuclear physicist Nuno Loureiro was found with a gunshot wound in an apartment on Monday night. Earlier this week, FBI Boston Special Agent in Charge Ted Dox told reporters that investigators were sharing intelligence regarding both cases, but had not come up with a clear tie yet. Unverified reports in both Providence, Rhode Island, and Brookline, Massachusetts have described Nissan Sentras at the scene, though they were described as having license plates from different states. On Thursday, the regional CBS affiliate reported that senior law enforcement sources have said they discovered evidence of a connection, but it is unclear what that evidence actually is. So, a masked gunman barged into a lecture hall at Brown University in Providence around 4 p.m. on Saturday, killing 2 students, injuring 9 more. Authorities said they recovered 9mm bullet casings from the scene. A person of interest was seen Saturday, a few minutes later, on a surveillance video in a neighborhood east of Brown's campus. Then around 8:30 p.m. on Monday, the MIT professor was discovered with multiple gunshot wounds in his apartment in Brookline, a short drive from campus. He was pronounced dead at the hospital the following morning. He was a renowned nuclear physicist, director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, and a recipient of a presidential award honoring his research from the White House earlier this year. Authorities have not described what kind of weapon was used to kill Loureiro. The shooting left 2 students dead, identified as Ella Cook of Alabama and Muhammad Aziz Umarzov of Virginia, and 9 injured. 6 of the survivors remain hospitalized as of Thursday afternoon. 1 is in critical but stable condition. The others are still stable. We're going to keep following this story for you and bring you updates if we get them. Right now, it looks like things are developing quickly. I wonder if this thing's even going to be resolved or if this person is long, long gone. We'll keep an eye on all of this for you. Meanwhile, in other news around here, people are jumping to conclusions about who is not responsible. And then if you say the wrong thing on national TV, you get called a white supremacist. I kid you not. This is ridiculous. So, New York Times reporter Wajat Ali was on a panel on Piers Morgan's show with Jillian Michaels. Yes, Jillian Michaels, the workout lady. He's on a panel with her. He didn't like what she was saying, so of course she's a racist. But there's a fun little twist in all this. Give a listen.
Talking points are from 2001, which is why I yawned. The DeLorean right now is in 2025. Listen, I've been in this for a long time, Jill. I know you're just discovering this. Congratulations.
I think I've also...
Let me just finish. Okay, I let you say a lot of hateful, stupid, reckless things about Muslim Islam. I sat there and...
Would you like to say 1?
I just sat there...
That's 20 million people.
Jillian, you are... You by your own admission... You by your own admission are a white nationalist. You by your own admission. That's what you are, a white nationalist. You admitted it.
I'm a white nationalist. You know I'm Arab, right?
The number one
I'm Syrian and Lebanese and Turkish.
Okay, you're the one
You're calling the Syrian, Lebanese, Turkish lady a white supremacist. That really cracks me up. Actually, after that interview, Jillian Michaels was actually on Dave Rubin's show with Sage Steele. And listen to what she said happened after that interview with the New York Times reporter who calls anybody a white supremacist he disagrees with.
I wonder, and I said to my business partner the other day, I was like, well, my wife just got like 10 more death threats in her DMs, and someone called my son a little Nazi, and I was dropped by CAA's Speakers Bureau, and like all these things you go through, and I was like, maybe we should have just endorsed Ozempic and sex changes for kids and wide open borders. Like, we should have just left it. I should have been the poster girl for all of it. And none of this would have happened. But honestly, on my deathbed, I would have regretted it all.
Wait,
So
were you
right.
dropped by CAA Speaker Bureau because of this thing that we're talking about right now? Or is that something else?
I was dropped by CAA Speaker Bureau for saying on CNN that you cannot lay all the evils of the world at the foot of just one race.
That was her previous cancellation, Sage. You might have missed that one.
Yep. Very next day, I was like, didn't even
are
answer.
you still with CAA for your representation?
No.
Yeah, I did that once too. Let's not.
I left them too.
Right. Yes.
No.
Wait, that's absolutely hilarious. We've all either voluntarily or not voluntarily left CAA, and we're all doing okay. You know, we all have a roof over our heads.
Lesson learned. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy stuff, by the way. Absolutely crazy stuff. That's what's going on here, is that you say something that people don't like, and the discussion on Piers Morgan was about what percentage of the Arab population are terrorists. And then you get called a white nationalist, but you're an Arab yourself who's making those comments. You get dropped by your talent agency for saying something similar, even though you're Lebanese. See, it doesn't matter what your race is, what your skin tone is. It's matter if you buy into what the left is saying. Then you're allowed to say whatever you want. But if you're somebody who they claim is a protected class and you say the wrong thing, now you're a white supremacist. Now you're a white nationalist. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then you lose your talent agency. Then they drop you. Maybe that's why we haven't heard from Jillian Michaels in a long time. This is crazy. And people who speak truth to power, there should be a lot more people who do it. Because it seems like when people actually speak truth to power, they become a whole lot more popular. Look at a lot of these people. A lot of the people I'm going to be speaking to this weekend at Turning Point USA were people who risked their careers, risked their scholarships. Riley Gaines is going to be there. Riley Gaines for calling a man who wanted to compete as a woman. In fact, actually, that's the speaker my daughter's most excited about. It's the first time ever my daughter's coming with me to Turning Point USA. She had a whole list of all the speeches she wanted to go to. Anything with Riley Gaines, she wanted to be there. So I'm really excited to see what's going to be happening down at Turning Point USA. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues, including we have this whole idea to invest more in housing. Where are we going to get the money from? Representative Connors will join us to discuss Bob Ferguson's latest proposal. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.